Questions to the right, Gabe.
Coach, when you look at this team and evaluate it, do you see a killer instinct in there? And as a coach, how do you pull it out of
when
them?
you lose
Yeah.
a game by 1 point at the end, you haven't killed anything. So, let's just be honest. If you win, you got a killer instinct. If you lose, you don't. And, that doesn't speak for the whole year. I think we've won games and separated in the fourth quarter against other SEC opponents. We've won games in overtime, gone for it on 4th and 1 in overtime. I think as your team, as you go through the year, and you have an identity and you start to move away from that somehow in games. I said after the game, Gabe, that the recipe for us winning early in the year was running the ball and stopping the run. And we had a very, very hard time doing that. You look back in the first half, we had 5 possessions, of which was one play at the end of the half that I think you asked about at the end of the game. But we had 5 possessions. Counting that, we scored in 3 of really the 4 possessions, touchdowns. So our defense was on the field for, I think, 47 plays in the first half. So it was a very, very different game. And time of possession, as I've said before, is not as big a factor for our football team and how we do things as they are a number of plays. Arkansas had the ball, 20 minutes in our game. I mean, almost, more than half the game. But they weren't going to get 100 plays at the rate Ole Miss was going in the first half. So, you have a lot of things going on. You're trying to get your defense off the field. And, at the end of the first half, I called timeout so that we could set up a return to see if they would give us a punt to spring Christian loose and see if we can get some positive field position and then maybe take a chance at the end of the half if we get it past the 50 or if we get a decent return ball. Didn't get that. And then you start off, you got your backup quarterback in, you're up 21-6. What you don't want to do is give the ball away in that situation and make it a one-score game. So 21-6 going in halftime, you felt good about it with the fact that you're getting the ball back coming out of the third quarter because we deferred. And we didn't make enough plays in the second half to win. And so, we haven't played very well last couple weeks, and that's across the board. But the third quarter, we had an opportunity to come out and be aggressive. We ran a reverse pass. That's fairly aggressive play out of the half. We drop it, or it's a questionable deal. What's key is you don't get 2 fourth downs to stay on the field. And so staying on the field and getting off the field on defense is where that is.
Go to the left, Cease.
Kevin, coming this year, you talked about your team doing a good job blocking out the noise.
Right.
And that noise was created by a couple of other teams last 2 years. But how do they now handle the noise that's out there that they helped create by these last 2 losses?
I think the same way that you handle a lot of things. See, I think the attitude right now, I know that there's nobody in this building, players, coaches, people around this, just the players and coaches are happy about the last 2 weeks. There's no way you can be. And because those are 2 games we wanted to win, 2 games where we were headed and what was at stake were big games. Now, because of that, you still got a lot of things out there for us. We've got 2 more games to go, particularly in this month. So when it's all said and done, depending on what happens in these next 2 games, it says a lot about where this team's going to be. And because of what's happened in college football, not just here, but in the last 2 weeks, with 2 games to go, winning those 2 games could put you in a lot of different scenarios that are very, very positive for this program. And getting back to what you asked about, the feeling here, winning those 2 games can change that feeling really quickly, just in the locker room.
Down front, Brent.
You've talked about, playing in the SEC West, and as you saw from the end zone cameras, bigger rear ends, more beef,
Right.
essentially. How do you find that balance between getting these guys bigger and stronger, but also well conditioned for the second half.
Yeah,
And have you been pleased with their conditioning? in the second half?
It hadn't been a real issue conditioning. Like I said, we won games in the second half. We won games we played maybe the longest college football game in history against Tennessee. And won the game. So, in the middle of the year, I think that whenever you're unsuccessful, you're always looking for why is that, and from a conditioning standpoint, we're in good shape. I think we've played a large number of snaps on defense this year, probably as many or more than anybody in our league, with a concerted effort offensively to slow things down at times and really take some time and do some things. So it's a combination of things. Like I said Saturday night, for us to stay on the field is one thing, which we did in the third quarter. We controlled the time of possession in the third quarter. We didn't have any points, but we've also got to get off the field on defense on third down. And we've had a number of opportunities throughout the year on third down to do that, and we haven't been successful. And ultimately, a 3-and-out turns into a 14-play drive, which that's how you lose games in this league. And so, we have it's something that we recognize. It's something that we have worked at. And there's some of those things we've really kind of gotten away with early in the season with some big plays on offense to get us back in games or get us ahead and stay ahead, which we did, in the fourth quarter, to get the game, for them to come back and be close and to go on an 80-yard drive and take 6 minutes off the clock, go from 12 minutes down to 6. That's what you want to do, right, with what we're doing. But what we don't want to do is have them go 75 yards in a minute and 20 seconds. So, it's a combination of things. And as a team, we won games early this year as a team, and we lose games as a team. And that's something that has been discussed. There's something that is being practiced and being worked on.
Second row, Ben.
Coach, y'all, in the fourth is the only quarter where y'all have been outscored. This year it's only by 4, but it's still that quarter. And then y'all have given up 43% of y'all's points in the fourth. Why is that? And, why haven't y'all played as well in that quarter as y'all have in the first 3?
It's a little bit, I think that's skewed too, because the third quarter has probably been our best quarter, right? Coming out in the second half. And so basically, Saturday night was the worst third quarter we've played. Statistically, right? No points on either side. We didn't give up any, but we didn't score. We scored coming out, and we had every opportunity right off the bat to put things away. With elected to go with the kind of a gadget play, but couldn't get the fourth quarter. So, the fourth down. So yeah, I think when you say statistically after 10 games, if you're basically even in the fourth quarter. Right? We're down 4 points. Of course, 10 games. Right? Right. So, some of those games we've been ahead. Some of those games, we've been behind. I don't think you can just generalize what's happened there. I think what you can do is look at what happened Saturday night. All right? And Saturday night is probably a reflection of Saturday night more than it is of the whole season.
Right, and it wasn't just I didn't mean for it to come off as generalization.
No.
But the thing was, there seemed to be a lot of similarities between what happened in 2 wins, UCLA and Tennessee, and then what happened on Saturday. The only difference on Saturday was it was a loss.
We lost.
And so,
right.
And so, do you see any correlation or connection between those 3?
To conditioning, or what do you mean? Just in general?
Kind of how all 3 of them had similar endings,
And we won a couple of them, and we lost one.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the correlation. We won a couple and we lost one. They got players, they got coaches too, and I think what you see is the number of snaps has gone up on defense, particularly the other night. The number of people available to play have gone down. And that's not rocket science or anything, and that's not an excuse, because that's everybody right now. So to be able to control the clock a little bit more has been an effort on offense, which we've done in certain games, and really went into that kind of mode Saturday night with limited number of people, particularly with Armani out, and this number of people that were out. It becomes a team game, and with a backup quarterback that maybe you're not as comfortable with trying to outscore somebody all the time, and to be up 21-6 at halftime and only have 5 possessions in the first half, you got to feel good about where you are, being able to move the ball in the second half, and we weren't able to do that.
Down front, Travis, and then Suzanne, and then Daryl in the back.
Coach, UTSA is a team of a lot of guys with JUCO transfers and guys who have bounced around to a couple of FBS schools. When you are recruiting those guys or have the opportunity to have those kind of guys come into the program, what are you looking for in them, and what can they bring to a team?
I'm a little bit confused. Are you talking about UTSA or what we do? Or
When you have the opportunity to come across these guys, what do you look for, and what can they bring to a program?
We've had tremendous success with transfers from other schools. We haven't had a bunch of them, but the guys who have come here from 4 or 5 year institutions, every one of them has been somebody that we knew and recruited. And so because of that, we had a prior relationship either before I got here or since we've been here, and that's why guys have, I think the guys who've transferred from 4 year institutions have been good. Whether just going back to Trey Carson and all those guys that Trey we had a relationship with him just like we had with I just forgot his name that quick.
Brandon.
Yeah,
Williams.
Brandon. Yeah, and Brandon was at Oklahoma, but he was right down the road. We tried to recruit him at Houston. Same thing with Trevor and Keith Ford. Keith was right down the road. This guy that we tried to recruit. We knew something about them. We knew something about them in high school. We knew their coaches. We knew their families. And so the transition is not so much of a guessing game of why that guy's coming here, and knowing a little bit more about their character and maybe their situation. The same thing has been the case with our junior college guys. The guys who've come here, some have been recruited out of high school, some haven't, but we've got great relationships, particularly in the state, going back to even a Darrell Walker, who was not recruited at all, and but knew something about him. Josh Reynolds, guys that have come in here from junior colleges, and our 2 offensive linemen that have had really successful and positive experiences here because of relationships we had before them, knowing a little bit about them, and not just getting a recruiting list and trying to develop a relationship early. So, very rarely will we take a transfer from another 4 year institution that we don't know anything about. This is a guy that called, and we get calls all the time from guys that want to come, or even graduate transfers that want to come. That if we really don't know much about you and your background, and if we can't have a relationship right there, we really don't go there. So, I think a few years ago, I can remember when Larry was there. I think UTSA had 31 seniors on that team, just based on the program getting started. They were really good too, and they had a bunch of guys that had transferred from all over the place. But I think they had 31 guys that were veteran players at a Power 5 level, and most of those guys were. So if you can get them, and that's coaching a little different football team. But they got, Frank Wilson is an excellent recruiter, has a great reputation throughout this region, is a hard worker, really personable guy, is really working through the high school coaches in this state, has a great relationship with high school coaches in Louisiana, obviously is one of, if not the lead recruiter for LSU for the years that he was there. And I think the future's bright. He's got a good situation, and he knows what he's doing.
Second row, Suzanne. Then we'll go to the back, Daryl.
one point, I guess halfway through the season, your running offense was really good. I think
Right.
you and Auburn were tops in the SEC. But the last 3 SEC games, you all have had 114, 117, and 129.
Right.
Now, is that more of a combination of some injuries that are going on with your offensive line, or is it the case that maybe some of these teams that you've played lately have had more game film to see any kind of tweaks
Could be
from a zone?
a combination of all those things, but we still have to, for who we are, we've still got to be able to run the ball. And that's not an excuse. You know, there's no injuries are not an excuse in this league at this point of the year. We've got to be more creative in what we're doing. I think you know, when the last game, you know, without the presence of Trevor to really put pressure on the perimeter with the running game, you're getting a different defense where maybe we have to block everybody instead of reading a person or two. So you know, that changes things schematically a little bit, but you know, we still have to be able to be who we are, and we haven't been that team the last couple games, and you know, that there's different reasons for that, but you know, it hadn't been from a lack of attempts, so there's other reasons for that.
Now, I know Jake, I think his first carry or first scramble, he had 16 yards, and he looked pretty quick. Can you all use him the way you use Trevor Knight? In the running game?
He's a different guy. You know, he's not a 4-5 guy like Trevor. So, and you know, he's built a little bit differently than Trevor for taking hits too. I'll just put it that way. I'm not going to say he's not stronger, but he just built a little bit differently. And so, you know, he's got, like I said before the game, he can run. I think early you saw them make an adjustment because they were playing a little bit more man-to-man early, and when guys' backs are turned, you know, it's easier for the quarterback. And we saw less of that with Trevor Knight. We did see it early in the year to make him, the theory was play man-to-man, make Trevor Knight be accurate and throw the ball in the tight windows, but when everybody's back was turned, Trevor Knight was running behind you. So that scared people out of that. So, you know, you got to figure out, you know, what I thought Jake, for what we asked him to do, was effective in that football game. I mean, the whole game. And, you know, Jake was not the reason that we lost that game. For you're a backup quarterback that comes in a game and really has one turnover, and the turnover's at the end of the game when he's throwing one up trying to make a play. He took care of the ball. He scored 3 out of really 4 possessions in the first half, and gave us an opportunity at the end of the game with a 70, 80-yard drive, you know, and a touchdown throw to put us ahead by enough points to be able to win the game. So from his standpoint, you know, from a backup guy, if you had said that before the game started, I think he would have taken that. You know, it takes other people with a backup guy to come in to win football games. And I'm not just talking about defense. I'm talking about offense. I'm talking about special team. I'm talking about everybody. And so, you know, for him, and knowing that going into it, you know, the idea is for him to be solid and ask him to do what we wanted to do, and he did that and didn't give the ball away and gave us an opportunity.
So very back, Daryl.
Coach, could you comment on UTSA's offensive attack, and maybe in particular the 2 kids from Consolidated that are their top 2 leading receivers, and Kerry Thomas and Josh Stewart?
Yeah, and Scott Stewart. How about that? You know, and they've gotten loose the last couple you know, the last couple games. They've gone for quite a bit of yardage. Guys that can really run. I think what you see right now is indicative of high school football in the state of Texas. It used to be just 7, 8, 9 years ago, there were only so many Division I programs in the state, and now with the large number of leagues, which that teams are playing in, and programs, UTSA, North Texas, you know, different places who used to be at the FCS level, now they are moving into the FBS level, or giving kids in this state an opportunity to stay at home and play. And, you know, those guys are going to be excited to play here. It's just like, you know, when we played, you know, earlier in the year, I was talking to the New Mexico State, just talking to their coach. Their whole secondary was from the DFW, the whole secondary at New Mexico State. So, what it does is give a lot of guys in this state an opportunity to play Division I football, and some guys are late bloomers also. And you can't get them all, but those guys will be excited to play here basically be back home and play in Kyle Field.
Olin, you'll wrap us up, and then we've got Coach Chavis ready.
Kevin, do you think that, or do you sense that your guys in your locker room have lost any confidence in the last 2 weeks? And then I would also ask what you think if you get a feel for it, what the kind of mindset of the team is right now.
I think the mindset is one that I said earlier. I think nobody's happy. It's a little bit of not more anger than frustration. Does that make sense? So from that standpoint, as a coach, that's in this situation, that can be a good thing. I thought that in critical situations in the last couple of weeks, we were a different team. We probably were a little bit tight. And instead of being the freewheeling guys running around doing the things that they need to do, and we did not make the plays the last 2 weeks at the end of the game that we made earlier in the year in close games, because we've won close games early or separated late in those games. And so, from that standpoint, that's something that we've looked at as coaches. It's something that we've talked about as a staff. It's something that we've talked about as a team, and that's something that quite honestly we've talked. Sit down with our leadership guys on this team and talk about where you are, how you feel, what do you why is that? Do you feel pressure? Do you feel this? Do you feel that? Because we try to take it off of you, and play the free and loose style of football that was successful for us early, and maybe not as tight as we've played the last couple of weeks.
All right, Coach.